and gentlemen, welcome to round one of the TSSAA playoffs for the 2021 season. We're here with the Coach Shawn Witten show tonight. I'm Stacy Street along with my partner Tony Briggs and Coach Shawn Witten, head coach of the Elizabethton Cyclones. First of all, Coach, let's do a little wrap up last week of the travel down to Seymour. Probably one of the most dominating performances, especially defensively, that we've seen in a long time. Let's recap a little bit about that rainy, cold trip down to Sevier County.
Well, we've talked a lot about that in the past shows, Stacy, just about finding different ways to score. But it was just really fun to see us get off to a great start. We were really flying around on defense, a number of guys making plays, but it was really cool to see a lot of our players just be rewarded, throughout their careers. Or just Blake Stewart getting an interception, running back for a touchdown, and Bradley Cannon just flying around and making a lot of plays, and then just seeing us score on special teams, score on defense. I thought we were super physical, super aggressive. We were really pinning our ears back, going and making a lot of plays. But just exciting to see us play really well, coming off a bye week. Coming off a lot of practice time. We talked a lot about going into last week's game about the carryover. You saw a lot of that in that performance.
And a lot of times this year we've seen the defense sort of let the offense come to them. Tony and I talked about it a lot during that game. It was full speed. The interception by Blake, the pressure that was put on the quarterback, the Jake on the punt returns. It seemed like they were really pushing the thing. Is that something that you're going to work on to carry on as we get into?
Well, you obviously want to get to fast start, Stacy. But I think just the ability that we talked about going out there and the things that we've worked on, to carry over in the game-like situations. But down there on the field, the thing that stood out to me the most was really hearing the pads popping. I mean, there was a lot, physically taking those guys around and laying on them. Just a couple times Brad on our sideline was really selling out, and making a lot of plays. And then, we held them, they barely crossed midfield to a long period of time. And then, we just did a good job overall, just being sound. It was just really good team defense. It was a really good team win. It was really good to see us just being excited for other people's success, And then, the things that we talked about, Jake came back out and got another interception right after halftime. And then, we were just flying around making a lot of plays. And so we've talked a lot about, we got to take our game to another level. We got to flip that switch, and so it was really good to see those guys do that.
All right, Coach, a couple of you speaking about Jake. Jake had a phenomenal game. He scored in all three facets of the game. The pick six, the punt return, and also the two catches he had in the end zone. Tell us about, the one particular one we had was down on the opposite end of the scoreboard. Bryson had all time supposed to go a little quick hitch, but it wasn't there. But Jake kept working. Speak a little bit about what it takes between Bryson and Jake, the confidence they got together, and how they know what each other's doing.
Well, I think Bryson's ability to extend the play has been phenomenal since he took over the helms of the quarterback, and then. We work on a scramble play a lot. Every Thursday, we talk about scramble drill on offense and defense. The quarterback's extending the play. But, the play down there was designed to go to Jake originally on a little mini post pattern. Bryson didn't make it, but, he's done a great job. Our lineman gave him great protection, and Jake just kept coming across the field. So, those plays, kind of break the defense down, just the plays that you can't coach, you can't teach, and it's the ability to see down the field. But, our pass protection for the most part of the season, Tony, has been really good. And Cade is really good as a pass pro running back as well.
Speaking of your line, it seemed like, going into this season, there was some question marks, especially from the center left. But it seemed like the line, pass pro, and also getting there with the run blocking, it seemed like that they're starting to gel, and there's sometimes me and Stacy look at each other, and Bryson's got all day back there to pass.
Well, I think for the most part we've done a really good job, like we mentioned all year long in the pass part. There towards the middle of the season, we started trying to get more people involved. So it wasn't really staying in rhythm. It was trying to get certain people the ball so we could see what people could do, and so. now lately, it's been more about our offensive line in a lot of our games, just, keeping the ball on the ground. And of course, we had the rain game against Ray County. We got off to a great start, but the volunteer game, a lot of times in practice, is keeping them in the flow of the game. But, the emergence of, we started the game with Mason Ball at H-back. We've been shifting a lot of formations, a lot of personnel groupings in there, 12 personnel, as we call, with 2 tight ends down on the goal line. We've been doing a little bit different looks than with so much of the beef that we've been using early in Bryson's career. And then, so there's just a lot of options for us to go to that's helping those bits and pieces. And I think now, I remember a long time ago when we started our success, hearing a Knox Catholic coach about peaking at the right time. You got to win a lot of games early. You got to fight and scratch and crawl our way in the middle of the year. But now is where you really got to hit your peak, and I believe our offensive line is doing that.
Speaking of that, you look back, we started out on the high the whole season. Then we went to Greenville, sort of got a little lull. Then we started to come back out. Your assessment as a coach from the outside looking in, where do you think this team is at this year?
Well, I can't really be more proud of our guys, the way that we've learned from defeat. We've learned from our mistakes. We've grown up, since we had our loss week 2. We've had our challenges, obviously, multiple personnels in and out, trying to find guys' homes at positions. The strength of our team, obviously, early on was some key people, but as a position group, it was our defensive line, just the depth and experience and knowledge. And I think the ability to, we've been looking to find other pieces to help our offense or to maybe help our defense to kind of settle in some roles. But, just the addition of people coming back, Blake coming back, and the strength of Grayson, and who would have thought that Cade would be able to play running back this entire season, and pretty much just, grab that position by, and dominate at it. So it's really phenomenal to see. It's been a lot of work in progress, but, the way that we've been able to bounce back, we're in rhythm. We realize that, some areas of concern and the mistakes early. And, but, I really like the performances. The Boone game was a gut-wrenching performance. It wasn't pretty, but we found a way to win. Same thing with Anderson County, same thing with Ray County, and we just were able to kind of finish the season off. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for last week's recap. When we come back after these words, we'll preview tonight's huge round 1 of the TSSAA 4A Championship. We'll be back after these words. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Coach Shawn Witten Show. Coach, the second season begins now. Everything that you've worked for since from June 1 all the way up to now, it's time for it to start taking hold and taking root right here. Tell our listeners a little bit about this Knox Carter team. This is the 3rd time we played them. Played them in 67, 68, and then again in 93.
Well, it's a really, it's a different, playoff, bracket that's really kind of set up because, Region 2 is built with different teams, so it's not your normal round 1 games. You've got a number of great teams in that Knox County area, that we're going to see over the next little bit, that's different than what we've been used to seeing for one. But, I think there's some teams that have kind of been in a 5A, 4A league, and now, there are no more easy round 1 games. There's a team that's very athletic. They've got tons of skill group. They've still played really good competition. They're right on the outskirts of right there before you go into Knoxville, where they're playing Walker Valley. You got Sevier County. You've got a number of really good teams that they play. South Doyle, Fulton, Anderson County. So they still have a great schedule for one. They're very talented on the offensive position. The quarterback's a really good player. They throw it a lot. They use all their players. They got 5 guys that got 30 catches or more. So it's just it's an up and coming, really good 4A team. Quarterback's a junior, receivers are juniors. They're starting a right guard that's a freshman. So it's a really good football team, that we could see in the future that's going to be really good.
Someone asked me today, said, how would you describe this Knox Carter team? And I put, it's a Big 12 offense with sort of maybe a Big 12 style defense. You never know what you're going to get. You're going to get onside kicks, you're going to get fake punch, you're going to get rugby style punt. You got to be ready for everything. They're just wanting the ball ready to score.
Well, it reminds you a lot of like an old CAK, if our viewers, we used to play them, but, it's a little bit like Anderson County in some ways, Nolensville. You can tell the quarterback's very smart, very intellectual. Everything goes through him. The teams we've played in the past, it kind of reminds me a little bit like a Nolensville in some ways where, it's quarterback driven, quarterback heavy. A lot of things are on his shoulders. But they do take a lot of risk, and I think that, they're in a tough league, between Fulton, Doyle, Gibbs, there's a number of teams there that you got to be able to take some challenges. So they're really pushing to take the risk of, they do a lot of fakes, they do a lot of go for it on fourth downs, they do a lot of 2-point plays, so they really do a great job in keeping you on your heels. But, here's a football team that comes in at 6-4. 2 weeks ago was their best win. They scored 42 points against South Doyle, and then last week they had a disappointing loss to Fulton. So it's really going to be a great challenge. It's been fun preparing for a different opponent, and so, you just got to be ready to go, in round one.
What do you look defensively for them to do to try to maybe either take Jake away or possibly take Cade away? Because you can't take both. So you're going to pick your poison.
Well, I think, everybody knows that our offense is built around, the similar for a lot of people as quarterback, obviously. But, we definitely got to be able to run the ball in the playoffs. You got to be able to stop the run. A little bit what they do is they try to be fancy in a lot of the way that they play. They're wide open. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of go for it. There's nothing really fancy about what we do. It's run the ball. It's high percentage throws. It's take a chance when you have an opportunity. But it's a lot of don't beat yourself. No turnovers, very few mistakes. We got to keep the penalties down. But it's a great challenge for us because we know that Carter's going to come in, nothing to lose. They're going to pin their ears back, and they're going to really do a great job of trying to get after. So, you could expect a lot of plays early of them pushing the ball down the field, them trying to max blitzes, a lot of man coverage, to really try to have to do some different things to make some adjustments early.
Let's talk about your preparation with the team this week going into the playoffs. So you've been back here, what now, 13 years?
15.
Yeah,
15.
15.
Wow, 15. I'm getting old.
Yeah.
15 years back here now. For a long time it was make the playoffs and hope you can win a game or two. And for some years we got into the playoffs, and as you said, those first round games were against poorer teams. The whole mindset with this program has changed now. Let's talk to our listeners a little bit about what the Elizabethton Cyclones, what their attack of a playoff is now. It's no longer, hey, we're glad we're here, let's see how good we can do. What's your feeling about that, and how do you talk to your team about that?
Well, I think that, our kids, we're fortunate enough to have great leadership, and we got enough guys back that really understand truly what it takes, and I think that, all the messages that you preach, just really getting them to understand, and we started that, the way we started, you attack the game plan on Monday. It starts with me, the way you kind of, present, the things that, your opponent does and what to expect and how we got to step it up a notch. But I think it's just, you really got to get to work in the practice, and you really got to prepare. And you use those extra days on Monday and Thursdays now where you don't have JV games to really dial in and really do a great job film study. But, where these games are won sometimes is not on the practice field. At this time of the year, it really becomes mental. It's extra film study. It's extra understanding of your assignments. It's in a 10-minute period in practice, it's running the same play over and over and over and over to really understand what you're about to do. And there's so many things you got to cover, but it's really making sure we got this play and that play, that there's no confusion, that there's clear communication, that each person understands their value and their role. That's what's expected for them in the game.
What's your one key for the game tonight as you go into this first round of the playoffs? When the game's over with, the final whistle blows, what's it going to take for you to be satisfied tonight with the performance?
Well, I think tonight, I mean, honestly, as poor as you may play, it's, at the end of the day, it's about survival in advance. But I think really throughout this season, if we're going to win tonight, we got to be the least penalized team. We've had our fair share of penalties, and at times uncharacteristic penalties. And even last week against Seymour, we did just late hits, personal fouls.
The kickoffs seem to be the Achilles heel.
I think that we've got to be the smarter team, the more disciplined team, the more fundamental team. The team that has the more experience. There's a lot more for us to lose in the same sense, but we just can't allow them to hang around and just give them the game because we want to make foolish penalties. So just having our head in the game, and understanding the risk versus the reward. And when you get in playoffs, officials come from Oak Ridge. They come from Athens, Tennessee. They come a long way. And so just understanding that part of the game plays a huge factor, And I think that's probably as important for any, especially with this team, because we have an older bunch and then we have a younger bunch. It's kind of mixed in, And so, when you put different people on special teams roles or you throw a backup in there, that backup has got to know just as much as the starter knows, obviously, in crucial situations.
And you touched on this a little bit. You got everybody back. You got Ryan up. No more T.A. Duggar games. You got no more JV games. No freshman games coming. So you got everybody here and everybody's in. How's your week of practice been?
Well, it's really been good. I thought our Monday is probably as good as a Monday's preparations we've had through the season and maybe, through the playoffs of the last 2 years. We were kind of flawless on top of the pointed things that you got to do. Obviously, there's a lot of adjustments that the O-line has to make, and defensively of just adapting to different schemes each week. Maybe not so much of tweaking this play or inserting a new play or a new formation. A lot of it is just being confident in your ability to go out and execute. It's film study and it's knowing and leaving no doubt, And so, just small messages, making sure we're not overdoing it, making sure at times we're not putting, staying on the practice field longer than normal. If anything, it's short, it's sweet, extra film study, extra preparation, not trying to add anything more than we need to do. And then, I think, you got to obviously rely on the things you do really well, the things that have gotten you to this point. But obviously, you've got to have a few wrinkles here and there. And I think, we got to be able to do what we do well. Then that's running the football, stopping the run. And we're going to get challenged tonight. At times, things are not going to go well for us. And it's a lot of it's how we respond. We've been fortunate a lot of times in my career since we've been here to have multiple fast starts. If that doesn't happen tonight, how do we respond from that and keep playing and keep finishing?
That's going to do it for tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen. And Tony and I can say these 15 years that the mindset's changed in this Cyclone football program. When playoff starts, that's when we start cranking it up. And that's what we're going to do right after these words from our sponsors. Tony and I will come back and have our pregame. And at 7 o'clock tonight, changes with the playoffs. 7 o'clock, we'll have the first round of the 2021 4A playoffs right here from beautiful Citizens Bank Stadium as the Elizabethton Cyclones host the Knox Carter Hornets tonight. So we'll be back after these words from our sponsors on WBEJ Radio Sports.